Simpsons Index, an online spreadsheet that is also a podcast. This is the podcast. Coming out of SideQuest Studios, this is the Simpsons Index, episode 89. I'm your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill, and joining me today is BT Calloway.
Yo, yo.
And coming from sunny California, all the way in the United States of America, from JTE Movie Thinks, from Screen Junkies, and from Collider, it's JTE.
What's going on? I'm ready to talk some Simpsons, y'all. I'm a huge Simpsons fan, grew up with it. I jumped ship when they went to crap. We'll talk more about that later. But I'm excited about this because I've not seen a lot of episodes outside of the first 10, 12 episodes. Seasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're more than ready to subject you to them as well. We've got some great episodes lined up for you today. But before we get into that, so JTE, you've got your podcast, JTE Movie Thinks. What else do you do? Tell the people at home.
Yeah, besides Screen Junkies and Collider and Schmodown, I have my own YouTube channel, JTE Movie Thinks. Also, that's my name on Twitter and Instagram, all that stuff. JTE Movie Thinks across the board. My YouTube channel, I do a lot of reviews. I do a lot of early stuff, especially for the big ones like Marvel and Star Wars. And I do trailer reactions, and I do like some other fun things. I just did an audio commentary for the movie Cobra with my boy Tom Dagnino, a.k.a. Bobby Finstock. Nice. So yeah, check those out. Check out my channel. I do a lot of geeky, fun stuff on there.
Oh, excellent. But yeah, today we're doing The Simpsons with you. Yeah, so just give us a history of you and The Simpsons. You've been watching from a young age?
Yeah, listen, growing up, man, every Sunday night, it was appointment viewing. I would never miss a Simpsons episode. And then every day I would go to school, whether it be middle school or high school or elementary, and me and my friends would get together at lunchtime, and we would literally just talk about the Simpsons episode. It's all we would talk about, and we would just quote it to the end of the day. To this day, I could have a full conversation with two of my best friends, and we could almost have a complete conversation in Simpsons dialogue and quotes, to the point where I don't even have to, sometimes I could just give a look to my friend, and we know exactly what we're both thinking when it comes to that Simpsons episode. And I'm just like, that, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It just became second nature to us.
Ties into your post-apocalyptic theory, doesn't it?
Yeah, when the world is wiped out by superintelligent cyborgs and they delete all our digital ability, we'll obviously have to communicate in a language they can't research, and that will be the endless knowledge of Simpsons quotes that we all have. It'll be called Simpsonics, and it will save our lives.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so you dropped off at some point as well? You didn't keep watching after a certain point?
Yeah, around season 11 or 12, it just started changing. At that point, I heard a lot of the original writers left. I mean, Conan O'Brien, has written some of the best episodes ever. He left.
Yeah.
You could just feel a change in the guard. You could just feel it didn't have the same tone, didn't have the same wittiness. And I do think a lot of it had to do with Family Guy and South Park. In my opinion, it felt like at times they felt like they had to make it raunchier to keep up with these new edgy shows. And to me, that's not what Simpsons was about. It was about great comedic timing, writing, and characters.
Yep.
And it felt like, to me, they just started, let's just go a little raunchier, a little edgier, and we'll get these new audiences that are going for the edgier stuff. To me, it was a failure.
No, absolutely. And was there an episode that was particularly raunchy or whatever that put you off? Or
it wasn't around season 13 or 14, it wasn't so much, it was the writing was not there, and the heart felt like it wasn't there as much. But it wasn't until I would jump in a couple of years later, and certain episodes just enraged me. I remember seeing a commercial, "This week on The Simpsons, Marge gets a boob job." And I'm like, what? That is your whole episode?
Yeah.
And they're what is happening? And then there's an episode I happened to turn on one day, and it was a Kurt Cobain, Homer's in college and he's in grunge.
Yeah.
That rewrote the history of how Marge met Homer.
Yeah.
And when they started doing that, I was furious, and I was like, this show is dead to me. Nothing happened after maybe season 11 or 12.
If it makes you feel any better, things get so much worse from there. So, arguably, you got out when it was still okay.
Yeah, but that's it, It's weird to see that show and Homer singing 90s songs like Glycerine or whatever it was. But no, they grew up in the 80s. He was singing Girls Just Want to Have Fun when the working day is done.
Yeah, he worked at a mini golf place. That whole prom episode with John Lovitz is the one guy, Artie. I love that history. I joke about that all the time. I don't want the history of my beloved characters to be rewritten just to make fun of the grunge era.
Yeah, like When Birds Suddenly Appear is their song.
Yes.
Still brings me to tears. But unfortunately, we don't start out with the good episodes. We start out with the newer ones. And we just watched an episode from the HD era. This was Season 21, Episode 1, Homer the Whopper. First released in September of 2009, it was directed by Lance Kramer and written by, get this, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. Yes, that's Seth Rogen and that Evan Goldberg. In this episode, it's discovered that comic book guy has been writing a series of comics called Everyman about a superhero that can absorb the powers of any comic book hero whose comic he touches. And Bart discovers this and it becomes really popular amongst the school, and eventually comic book guy sells the rights and makes it into a movie in which Homer is starring as Everyman. So what did we think? JTA, what'd you think?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I went into this thinking I was going to hate it. And it wasn't that bad. I think this episode is definitely tailored towards me, someone who lives in Hollywood, reports on it every day, is basically how I make my livelihood. So I enjoyed seeing them just kind of making fun of the Hollywood machine. And again, speaking of the classic Simpsons, it reminded me of Radioactive Man. Easily one of the best episodes of Simpsons ever. The goggles... They do nothing. It's one of the most quotable episodes ever. So it feels almost like a spiritual sister or brother to that episode. And it's kind of fun to see like what they thought of Hollywood back then and what they do now. And not a lot of things changed, honestly. It seems pretty similar in some ways. So overall, I liked it because of the subject matter. And I do think, again, I haven't seen any other episodes in this season, but I got to think that having Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen, who work in this industry, are producers, directors, they really brought in a fresh voice, or at least a interesting perspective on the Hollywood goings of these guys. So to me, I think they're probably the MVPs of this episode.
Yeah, definitely. What'd you think, BT?
This is one that I think started off quite strong and then just about the halfway point tipped down and just dropped significantly for me. Because the big central conflict within this is Homer's weight, and he gets, buff for the film, but then kind of apropos of nothing, he just gets fat again and then gets really fat, and that's not driven by anything, and that was a big disappointment for me. And then just a few kind of flyaway jokes start to make less and less sense, and I was so pumped for a while, like, oh, this is a good one, okay, sweet, and then no.
Yeah, it's good that you bring up Radioactive Man, because that is an example of an episode that has a lot going on. There is so much happening in that episode, but it's got, a solid through line. This one it was about comic book guy, and then it shifted and became the Homer show, which was kind of disappointing, because I think all the strongest material was at the top of the episode.
I agree. Like, watching it, I'm thinking, oh, this is a comic book guy episode, and I was like, this will be interesting.
Yeah.
See him kind of go forward, center. Yeah. Like, I think it's interesting to have the creator of something kind of get eaten up and chewed out by the Hollywood machine. So to me, I was like, no, this is going to be fun. And then when they ditch him and they go for Homer to be like this movie star, that's just not something like... When Homer did things that were kind of out of the ordinary, like he went to space. In another one of the greatest Simpsons episodes where he became an astronaut, the joke was like, this guy can't do this. And it was a publicity stunt. Yeah. There's no way in hell this guy is going to be the star of a movie like this, even though I get the fact that comic book guys, like, I have final say in this. And so for me, I don't know. There's some things that work, some things that didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So, top of the questionnaire, let's get into it. So, JTE, for better or worse, what is a moment from this episode that stood out to you?
I like the very beginning of the episode when they actually start reading the comic book. And I kind of like the fact that his power is, if you touch a comic book, you get that comic book hero's powers. Although I will say, there's a scene where he like touches Plastic Man comic, and Hitler is on the cover, and I legitimately thought he was going to turn to Hitler Man, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be funny."
The title was "Feather for the Fuhrer." Or something like
it's so ridiculous.
I missed that. Oh my god!
I was like, "Oh, he's definitely turning Hitler." Like, but they didn't. He just went to Plastic Man. But I like that, and I like the when Bart is really just kind of like, "Hey, Spider-Man's based on a comic. That can't be right," and he's just like having a nerd heart attack. I really enjoyed that. And then when Bart goes, "So how many of these have you written?" I thought he was going to say, "Oh, this is the only one." He's like, there's 300 freaking comics written, and the most controversial is the death of Marmaduke, and the cover was really funny.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I do like that something he's never shown anyone else ever has a controversial episode.
Exactly. Like, he already knows it's going to be controversial.
Yeah.
How about you, BT? What's a moment from this episode that stood out to you, for better or worse?
I really like there's a joke where we've got a bunch of Hollywood executive types sitting around talking about, okay, what's going to be the next big thing? What's going to be our next new franchise? And, the bratty kid walks in and is like, duh, it's going to be Everyman there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, right, we'll buy the rights to Everyman. He goes, someone else already did that 3 weeks earlier. And then you cut to 3 weeks earlier where they walk in and talk to comic book. It was just a really good kind of setup and switch. I got a good laugh out of it.
Yeah, and a nice misdirect there, and led to a lot of good Hollywood phony humor. What can we make a movie out of? Extension cords.
Paperclips.
Yeah, keys. But yeah, really ties into that whole, Pixar will just animate anything and make a fun romp out
What
of it.
if extension cords had feelings?
But yeah, I'm going to say the moment from this episode that stood out to me was how quickly Hollywood guy, comic book guy turned into a Hollywood phony. He gets the suit, he has this big open mansion and starts having parties, all very not him. Adopts a Cambodian kid at some point.
Called Prius.
It's a more fuel-efficient name. So yeah, being in Hollywood and sort of working in this industry, did a lot of these sort of characterizations sort of ring true for you?
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like, I feel like you could tell as you're watching it, like, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg were literally in these situations before, and we're literally like, let's just put this into the episode. I think the scene where the lady is talking about she just want to get back into business at the test screening, and she's like, I had to have a kid and all this. Like, I guarantee you that's just something they overheard at a premiere or something. Like, it just felt very authentic, and just the way the studio looked like Warner Brothers. And it's funny this was made in 2009 because this feels like it could have came out a year ago after Justice League came out, and it's just funny to see how a studio takes something and just could kind of ruin it or drive it into the ground and miss the point of what they should be doing.
Oh, yeah, Justice League especially. Mm-hmm. I don't think we've still made it through that movie yet.
We got bored about halfway. To be fair, we were drunk. So, it's kind of interesting that joke in particular stood out to me is just being kind of flat where they spent a whole, half a minute talking to this continuity director and was just like, why are we doing this? It was probably, an insider kind of thing. I mean, I thought it was pretty flat, but that comes from the perspective of someone who hasn't seen dumpsters full of studio executives before. If they have, and this speaks to that experience, then hey, there's something there.
But yeah, as well to remind you of all the test audience stuff as well.
Yeah,
that they do,
I've been to a lot of test screenings. I actually have a test screening for First Man this week, the new Ryan Gosling movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that happens here in LA a lot. They do test screenings, and they're fun to go to. Sometimes you don't want to go too early because the movie, if it has special effects, will look just horrible, like animatronics. So
right.
I do like to go to them once in a while if I think the movie's close to being complete.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very much a Hollywood thing. I don't know if they do those kind of screenings much outside of New York and LA. Here, it's just every time you go to a movie out here in LA, there's people handing out passes to go to test screenings.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So they're really doing the market research culture out there as well as a big movie culture.
Yeah, and a lot of times they use it just to figure out if a movie's working. I went to one in March for Godzilla, the sequel, and King of All Monsters.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't come out till next March. And it was so unfinished that I didn't want to watch the movie because I was like, I need to see this with its effects. I can't be watching this in such an early stage. So there's times where it could backfire when you go watch one of these things. But sometimes you'll see a movie and it's completely done, and then you won't see it for a year later. It's crazy.
Oh, post-production takes time.
Yeah.
So how did they fill in the gaps with Godzilla? Did they just have some dude with a hand puppet at some point?
It was early Pixar animation style stuff. Here's basically storyboard animation. The movie I think is actually going to be really fun. But who wants to see a monster movie without the effects?
No, that's it. But, I mean, nothing so bad that you'd say, I don't know, go stare into the sun to burn your eyes.
No, that was a decent joke.
Yeah. Ignored all animal instincts, stared at the sun.
So, play count. Have you seen this episode before today?
No, I haven't seen much outside of season 12, so this is definitely new for me, a first watch.
Yeah, how about you, BT?
I'm pretty sure no, but I definitely feel like I've seen that bit where Homer gets fat again and the pants, the button off his pajama pants launches out and flicks Marge in the head.
That was such a good bit of slapstick, I thought.
Yeah, I got to laugh at it, but like I feel like I've either seen a GIF or that's actually been in a different episode. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we've seen this often where people are like, I know that moment. And yeah it's just because of GIFs.
Yeah, and the highly advanced memes.
Yes.
Simpsons shitposting new level.
Absolutely. I've seen this episode a bunch. I'd say probably 10-something times.
Yeah, 10 times.
Probably, yeah.
That is too many times.
You know, I generally like seasons 21 and 22. I think that was the show getting better again after the movie. Like, I agree with everyone that the writing dropped off after, like, season 12 or whatever, but when the movie went into production, the show got very bad.
Yeah.
And I think they sort of picked up again around this moment, and then they went down worse than ever. Don't know the half of it, man. There's an episode where Bart gets a teacher pregnant with the power of voodoo.
Good God.
Ah, God, I wish
horrible.
you were joking.
And it ends with him and Homer doing a Les Miserables parody to try and coerce a horse to have sex with another horse.
I can verify none of this is made up.
This is insane. Matt Groening, if he was dead, would be rolling in his grave. Actually, that's probably not true. He's probably rolling around in money. That's why the shows keep going.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's rolling on a pile of money with many beautiful ladies.
And unsold bongo comics.
At what point do you just say, you know what? We had a good run. It's never going to be as good as it was. Let's end it. They should have ended this thing at like 13.
Yeah, 30 and done is what we're hoping.
Hoping for. So let's get into some of the wacky moments of this episode. What were sort of some of the cartoony elements that stood out to you?
I would say there's one joke that I really thought was funny. Again, I don't know how wacky it was. It's just when she goes to hug him and she feels her hand and is like freaked out. I thought that was funny because he's been fat his whole life. And it's just like, oh my God, I never been able to put my arms around you. I like the editing joke where he's fat and large. Again, like Radioactive Man had a great editing joke also. So stuff like that. Like a lot of times I'm watching this and I'm thinking, I just kind of want to go back and watch a Radioactive Man episode. Like, there's some good stuff in here, but like it's been done so much better in a very similar way. I think they were talking on like the Batman movies of the 90s when they shot that.
Yeah.
It was obviously like there's even some Adam West Batman jokes in that one where the Boy Scout leader's like, use your nail, boy.
Yeah.
He's like,
get him, boys.
Don't be afraid to use your nails, boys.
There's classic stuff in there. And this just feels like an updated version of that, but not as funny.
Yeah. How about you? Some of the wacky moments?
There was plenty of whack to be had here. They have a grasshopper raptor who eats Ben Kingsley.
Yeah.
So does Seth Rogen have a grudge against Ben Kingsley or something? Were they going for the same role and somehow Kingsley won? I don't know.
I think they were just like, what's the best actor who everyone just is like holds in high esteem? And Ben Kingsley has done some really bad movies. Like, he's gone in the gutter a few times, I think probably for money or whatever. Maybe he thought they were going to be good movies. He's been in some bad movies.
Yeah. He's worked with Yule Ball. Come on.
Exactly.
Enough said.
There's also a bit where Homer walks into the test screening and he fist bump what looks like the lizard from Spider-Man, except it's like then the lizard is in the movie and it's like, wait, is this a guy who's still in costume or what's going? And the fact that they show you fist bumping this guy, I thought it was a reference to Spider-Man, but then he's in the movie, so it's like, okay, well, why? I didn't know that beforehand. It was just odd. I didn't get it.
It's the ultimate method actor. To truly get into the part, he changed his DNA.
That is dedication.
Yeah, it made no sense.
One of the bits of wackiness I did like, because it was just a quick little joke and they kept moving, was comic boy cracks his knuckles, cracks his neck, and then cracks his ponytail.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those ones where they don't just stop and point it out. They just let it happen and you keep going.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that joke. There was some good subtle humor in this. But yeah, as far as cartoony moments, I agree. I think it is sort of a bit too broad. Like some of the fat jokes as well, sort of like when they're cutting him out of the trailer.
Yeah.
Like I thought, that's a bit much.
Yeah, that's a little bit. And him eating the cheese like that. I liked the joke at the first. I was like, oh, he can't just eat one, of course. And then he's just like, don't look at me.
And it's unlucky to eat an even number of cheese cubes.
Yeah.
So.
And then he's like, you look at me, like one guy. Like I'm like, this ain't that funny.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. But yeah, the other cartoony moment that sort of stood out to me was the montage jokes.
Yeah.
And I thought it was almost there, but it just sort of dragged out a bit too long, and they're sort of, oh, let's do Eye of the Tiger. No, do Heroes. And what?
Yeah. And then played 2 seconds of Heroes so they didn't have to pay for it.
Yep. But yeah, they totally should have used Eye of the Tiger there.
I agree.
Hey, it's my go-to karaoke.
Is it?
Had Homer run up some steps.
Yeah, some of those jokes, I think a lot of the stuff with the trainer was fine. I didn't think it was really great. I liked it more when it was about the movie stuff. He had that one good joke where it's like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt before he worked with them, and they were just like these two obese people on scooters. I was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
There is actually, I don't know if I want to call it wacky, but something that really stood out as just being very out of place for me, at least, is where the guy's all like, oh, so Homer, do you know why you eat? He's like, I eat because I get stressful and not everyone has time to beep. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah. So that was censored for you as well?
Yeah, that was censored too. And I think he says masturbate, but I'm not positive. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did too.
Yeah, I think so.
That's fascinating because I was under the impression he said fuck.
Yeah.
But,
No, it's crazy. Well, I mean, I guess it was pretty blunt, but there was one joke back in season 16 where he's like doing confession to a priest, and at one point in his big list of confessions, he goes, masturbated 8 million times and I have no intention in stopping now. And it's like, yeah, wow.
8 million. Given how old he is, I'm running the math on that later. That is far too many times for a man of his age.
But yeah, it's tying into what you were saying before, that they're trying to do these sort of raunchier jokes, and yeah, that's not what we really liked about The Simpsons.
No, I mean, to me, like, the humor, it would get outrageous, but it was done in a smart way. It never felt like it was in your face or dumb.
Yeah.
And even when it did feel dumb, it was like smart dumb, if that's the thing. I think the writing was so sharp back then.
Yeah, it was something that anything outrageous that happened, they had earned, or it was as a joke, like, when they'd be like, in order to get this inheritance money, you must spend the night in a haunted house, kind of just poking fun at plot lines that did that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it was just a joke of, best night's sleep I've ever had.
Yeah, and a lot of times, some of the jokes that were more outlandish were like homages to like very huge pop culture movies or stuff like that. And to me, that was like, okay, you're going outside of the realm because you're using pop culture or something that you've seen in a movie that everyone can relate to, not just, something stupid, which I feel like some of these episodes, they're just going outrageous to be outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, one that springs to mind that we saw recently is Homer going all T2 when he's chasing after Ned.
Oh my God, with the golf clubs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Then I feel like I'm going to say this about almost every episode from season 1 to 12, but almost every episode, I'm like, one of the best Simpsons episodes ever. That one where Ned becomes friends with Homer is gold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's ranking. Yeah, that one we gave full top marks to.
Unanimous cubic, I'm pretty sure that got. Yeah.
Yeah. So, another thing that we notice about the old episodes is that they have a lot more heart than the new seasons. Did this episode have heart?
No, not really. I mean, that's another thing. It feels more like a product to me now than it did back then. Back then, there was some sort of gravitas or heart or soul to it. Even though things would get outrageous, you almost would learn some sort of life lesson in those older episodes.
Yeah.
I learned nothing. There's no life lessons in this movie. Like, what is it? Hire a trainer so you can be in better shape? Be happy with the way you are? Like, no, it just feels like a lot of setup for jokes, almost like a satire. And I would never have called the old Simpson episodes a satire type episode. If they did a satire like Radioactive Man, there was still something there with a relationship between two characters, like Milhouse and Bart, and what they were going through. It wasn't just there for jokes.
No, absolutely. And that's sort of a lot of the shame with this episode, that we could have had a lot more heart moments with Comic Book Guy and even Homer.
Yeah, I think either follow Comic Book Guy becoming a Hollywood guy where he just kind of loses himself in the success. It's been done, but hey, it's still a good character moment to have. Or Homer just responding to the pressure of being on a $200 million movie when he's never done anything like this before. Yeah. And he has to be fit in order to do that, is then the pressure that pushes him into eating. Because they even establish stress and problems are what make him eat.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Like, I think if this was a Comic Book Guy episode, you could have been about how Hollywood changes somebody and how you kind of have to sell yourself out. I mean, instead, again, I don't like how it just became a Homer episode.
Yeah. No, we've noticed that a lot with the new episodes, that it sort of devolves into the Homer show. And I think, that sort of answers the next question is, did it feel like an episode of The Simpsons? How was the integrity?
I mean, I guess at times when you're whatever season they're in, this was season what, 21 or 20?
21, yeah.
When you're this far along, these characters have already learned all the life lessons they're going to learn. So at this point in the show, they're just vessels for jokes. They're just vessels to be put into these different comedic situations. We've seen all the character growth we're going to get out of these characters in the first 15 seasons. You can still touch on more timely stuff, and you can still use the show as a vehicle to talk about what's going on in politics or the world today. But as far as these characters, they've been through every scenario already. They can't grow much more as human beings because they've been through it all.
No, absolutely. So yeah, the show's integrity as a whole is a bit off, and I don't think Comic Book Guy or Homer, though, as the two particular focal points with this episode, really ever broke character. Even sort of seeing Comic Book Guy being stretched and turned Hollywood, I thought I bought it.
I got a joke out of it, because it didn't dwell on it too long. So either making a storyline or just that quick little bit that it was, and that
nobody
was
learned anything.
Well, no, that was
no
it.
one learned
But
anything.
I mean, I do like how they got Comic Book Guy to reset to 0, which was, we'll let you direct it and write the sequel, but all you've got to do is tell all your fans that this is a good movie.
Yeah, then he went Josh Trank and was like, right before Fantastic Four comes out, he was like, "This isn't my movie."
Yep.
Which is career suicide in Hollywood. That's why Trank, I don't think, has really made a movie since. I'd like that because it immediately takes Comic Book Guy out of the Hollywood machine, and it's in character with what he would probably do.
Definitely.
Yep, turned a hardcore trank.
It definitely should become a verb.
Yep.
Yes or no, would you watch this episode again?
I might, but it wouldn't be like by itself. Like the whole time watching this episode, I'm thinking I want to go back and watch the Radioactive Man episode. So like I feel like this would be a good double feature. Like if I wanted to watch or show somebody, like specifically Simpsons tackling Hollywood, I would show them the Radioactive Man episode, and then this episode, and try to kind of look at some of the things that have changed or some things that stayed the same. And there's another episode in around season 12 or 11 where Mel Gibson is with the Simpsons and are in Hollywood. And I think that's another episode that would fit with this, kind of make a trilogy. So yeah, it's not something I would revisit on its own, but I'd probably revisit if I was like trying to compare and contrast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, how about you, BT?
You know what? If I'm somewhere cozy and I've got like a warm beverage or a cold beverage or a beverage and I just don't want to get up, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And, I might watch it again. Like I said, I've got a little bit of nostalgia for it, but not too much. Guest stars of the episode. So we had Kevin Michael Richardson. I'm a big fan of his voice work, his amazing talent. And I mentioned before Matt Groening as well. He was shoveling bongo comics and going, I'm so rich, I'm so rich. And also had Seth Rogen as, is it Rogen or Rogen? I never remember.
Rogen.
Yeah,
Rogen. Seth Rogen.
Cool.
You heard it direct from Hollywood, people. Rogen.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was the trainer until you told me after the episode. He definitely changed his voice quite a bit. And I guess I didn't really love that character either, so he wasn't really a standout to me.
He didn't have a lot to do.
I was like more interested in executives and like what was going on with Homer and these other guys than I was his trainer.
Yeah. There was one bit of shtick which I kind of liked but also didn't at times, which was the whole say something and then whisper to contradict, and he's on the phone talking to Turtle. I hate him, and ugh.
It was an okay bit. They just did it too many times.
I like the one where he goes, goodbye, bad bye. It's something that I still quote and think about today, and But I thought it was a fine enough performance, and as the writer for this episode, I know you don't really have a point of comparison, but definitely for us, we noticed his writing did give this episode a bit of freshness that the new HD episodes don't often have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big Hollywood player. He's a director, a producer, so he definitely knows what he's talking about, and you could feel a little bit like it felt authentic. Like here's somebody who's in the Hollywood machine and is making these little fun observations.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And when he was pitching this as well, this episode, he sort of based this episode a lot about his experience doing Green Hornet and how he had to cut a heap of weight for doing that.
And then he made Green Hornet.
Yeah. But the Simpsons staff also took on this episode because at the time, and keep in mind this is 2009, they felt like there was a glut of superhero movies. And this is when the MCU is only Iron Man and Hulk deep.
Wow.
We haven't even hit First Avengers yet.
If that was a glut then, we're in a sea of collective noun of gluts.
Yeah. I mean,
a gorge of gluts. There we go.
this thing still feels pretty relevant. Like if you told me this was shot last year or animated last year, it would almost make more sense than when it came out.
Yeah, definitely. All right, JTE, did you have any final notes that you wanted to mention?
Just that this episode was better than I thought it was going to be. I think Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, really brought a lot to this episode.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess my final words on this is I really enjoyed it for the most part because it really is an inside look into Hollywood, and I wasn't really expecting that.
Yeah.
I think you got to give a lot of credit to Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. They really bringing a perspective of somebody that's inside the industry. And again, like I said, this is a great companion piece or spiritual sister or brother to the Radioactive Man episode. I don't think it's as good as that episode.
Oh, no.
But at the same time, they're exploring things that thing did also. And it's kind of funny to see how Hollywood hasn't changed that much. Like, I really enjoyed getting more of the perspective of the producers and the studio heads. And that's what I loved in the first Radioactive Man episode. Those same guys with the ponytail who were just like, we're going to run this into the ground and we're probably going to take whatever you love and what you think you love and change it to make it fit our product. So overall, solid episode. I think the writing of those two guys really was a big get for them. I'm curious to see what these other episodes are going to be like, to be honest with you.
And sorry, I forgot to ask as well, is there anything you'd like to change about this episode?
I mean, I would have to agree with what you guys were saying earlier. I think Homer just kind of came out of nowhere and became the lead of this episode when it didn't feel like it was going to be a Homer episode. I would have kept it with Comic Book Guy and used Homer and the rest of the family. They could always, even though they're not the main story, they could always come in and just lay some groundwork, some great jokes. One of the best things about those Radioactive Men, the Radioactive Man episode, is Homer just hanging out with the Grips and trying to be a teamster. Yeah. Like they could be around it. They don't have to be the, exactly. And they're just battling it out.
Yeah.
I just think you actually could have told an interesting story about Comic Book Guy selling out and then making the heroic decision to not sell out and tell people not to watch the movie. You had an arc there, and you kind of screwed it up and kicked the main character out and put in Homer for some reason.
Yeah, very much. How about you, BT? What would you like to change?
Kind of already covered it. I think I'd rather follow Comic Book Guy, I think, but if we're not going to do that, just follow Homer, but have him motivated a bit better. Like, I kept getting confused with where are they shooting this film because he's at home a lot, but then he's on set a lot. It's like, okay, where is this actually taking place? So have him away from the family, and, he's missing his family. He doesn't have that support. He's stressed out because he's the lead in this multi-million-dollar project, and he doesn't know what he's doing. And from that, he starts stress-eating when his trainer leaves because no one's motivating him anymore. Like I said, they've already established that that's why he eats to begin with. So you've already set that up and then not used it. Then give it a bit more emotional weight as well. Give him a bit more motivation and drive.
Yeah, the location is actually a very interesting point because in the Radioactive Man episode, look, we're going to keep coming back to this. It's just the clearest, closest point to it. But yeah, Springfield was almost another character in that episode, sort of how the town were gouging the Hollywood guys as well. And so, yeah, in this one, what if Homer was actually in Hollywood? He's not around his family, so he's extra, depressed or something. Yeah.
He's in a town that doesn't have a tax on puffy directing pads.
Oh, that's right. So, I mean, what I'd change about this episode, it might seem a bit tacky, but I would have actually had Bart more involved. Make him sort of Comic Book Guy's assistant or...
someone that was keeping him grounded.
Yeah, and so he could sort of start to see Comic Book Guy, turn Hollywood and him going, this isn't you. I think I would have liked that a bit more than what we got. But also, I mostly liked this episode. It just sort of petered out at the end.
Yeah.
So did you have any other notes that you want to mention?
I do like when they first start reading Everyman, they kind of transition in the comic book style. That looks really good. And then it's got a pretty good theme song for Everyman as well. That was kind of handy.
Yeah, and I like that his name was Avery Man.
Yeah, because that's the way comic books write names.
Yeah.
And there's a good quote in the Everyman comic book where the bank robber's like, it's just a flying fatso. Keep on robbing. I got a chuckle.
This was some of my favorite material in this open bit as well, and how they go like, you're gonna be beaten like an egg, and we're gonna scramble you like an egg.
Eggs. Nelson paints like Picasso rather beautifully.
Yeah.
There's a whole mural, I forget what the painting is, but there's that black and white one that's about the war in Spain or something.
Oh.
Yes. My last note is the Cineplex in Springfield is showing Star Wars, The Apology. which I think everyone has at least one film they want an apology for.
Yeah. I think mine's Rogue One.
Oh, yeah, Revenge of the Sith.
How about you, JTE? What Star Wars film do you want an apology for?
I mean, listen, Phantom Menace is almost unwatchable in my opinion, but as a stupid kid, I watched it in theaters maybe 5 times.
Yep.
I loved it back then.
Oh, wow.
I definitely had a lot of issues with Last Jedi, man, and I don't even want to put it on Rian Johnson so much as it doesn't look like they had a 3-act story for a trilogy. It really felt like J.J. Abrams set up all this stuff, and Rian Johnson's like, nope, I'm going to wipe that all out because there's no end game. So I could do whatever I want. And now JJ's going to be like, okay, I'm going to have to make up a whole new thing for the third. I wish they would have had a little more structure. So I'd have to say Last Jedi, unfortunately. I didn't hate it. It was just, it was just like, oh, there's no plan here. They're just doing whatever they want.
Yeah, it was weird to just tear everything down, but not replace it with anything. That was the weirdest part. Like, okay, if you're going to tear it down, sure, but do something else. And then that's just not there. Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that they knew it was going to be a trilogy this time. The first 3 they made, they didn't know it was going to be the success. They didn't know they'd get to make another 2. Whereas this time, they knew. So why not have it fully planned? Yeah,
Empire and Return of the Jedi feel like sequels to each other. Whereas, like, things pick up and are taken. Whereas this movie, at the end of the film, I looked over at my girlfriend and I was like, there's a third movie, right? Because this feels like the end of the trilogy and the end of part 2. I was like, they know they have to make another movie, right? They know this.
Yep.
All right, guys, it's time for my final notes. There were a couple of good sign gags in this as well, like, Star Wars, The Apology, and I like that one of the comic book shops was called the Maltese Vulcan.
And what was the other one? Mylar Baggins?
Mylar Baggins, yep. I was trying to remember they had, one of the movies was Eddie Murphy in Fat Suit.
Yeah. And there's Alvin and the Chipmunks with rabies.
Oh, that'd be the one Chipmunks movie that I'd actually watch.
Yeah.
I don't remember what movie they were talking about, but it was like, hey, Brett Ratner had final cut. I'm very aware of who had what cut. But, I'm ready to just dig on Ratner any chance I get. What'd you guys think of Krusty's audition? Did you like that, JTA?
Nah, I think it was that funny. It was pretty much a throwaway. At least it's in character with what he's like. Yeah. I don't like the fact that he's even going on audition now I think about it. One of my favorite jokes of the old Simpsons is he's about to record the voice for his doll, and he comes in, he's like, all right, he runs him off, and then he runs out the door, and then the audio guy's like, all right, Krusty, we're ready to... Krusty? Like, that's just a great visual joke.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this one didn't really do it for me. I really didn't need the scene at the Quickie Mart where Homer eats the off milk.
Yeah, now that I think about it, that had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, like, he was trying to purge weight, but then it didn't even matter because the film had already effectively been shot. Like,
yeah, it was dumb.
Man, a lot of my notes aren't that great. But I did like the joke from the movie executive, and I made Bad Summer Movie, the Bad Summer Movie, which was a parody of Bad Summer Movies, which in itself, a bad summer movie. That's not bad.
AKA epic movie.
Yes, disaster movie, that whole franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Have you actually even watched any of those? Like, the last one I watched would have been, like, not another teen movie or something. No. Like, I don't even know how they qualify as films. I watched about half of Meet the Spartans.
Ooh.
That was...
Like, the trailer for that makes me want to cry.
Yeah. Ugh. All right, guys, it is time to rank this thing.
Yeah.
On the Simpsons Index, we rank using our 6-point scale, which starts down the bottom at failure. But maybe if the episode was just meh, you give it participant. But for the good rankings, you got good, bronze, great, silver, excellent, gold. But for the best of the very best, the ones that you'd throw $200 million and make a movie out of them. What am I talking about? Anyway, the best episodes you give cubic zirconia. Let me go first. Let me show you how it's done. I'm giving this episode a silver. It's probably just edging a little high, but I'm thinking about sort of the grand scope of things and a lot of reviews that I've given episodes for. And, this is just a bit better than a lot of the ones I've given bronze. So just from that alone, I'm going to say, yeah, it's great, even though it sort of falls apart at the end. So silver for me. How about you, BT?
I mean, I was on a silver until about the halfway point, and then it just slid right downhill for me. I'm on a bronze participant kind of range. I feel like I'm going to go bronze, though. I think there's enough decent material to keep it from being entirely bland and forgettable, like what I think of most participants.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got enough chuckles, and I would probably watch it again if it was on, but I would also... I feel like I would get halfway through and go, That's why I don't like this one.
Yeah.
So I reckon it's okay.
All right, JTE, finish it off. What would you like to rank it?
I'm pretty much right there with BT. I was a silver for the first half of this episode, surprisingly, and it just kind of went downhill for me to the point where I was last 5 minutes. I was like, all right, let's wrap this up. Not enjoying as much as I was before.
Yeah.
So I got to bring it down to a bronze. But listen, that's a success for this Simpsons episode because I was coming in thinking I was going to rate it pretty damn low. So the fact it made it to a bronze is a little bit of a miracle in my eyes.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, averaging out the rankings, that'll make it a shiny bronze. Other episodes that we've ranked shiny bronze are Simpson Tide when Homer joins the Navy. Mm-hmm. Sort of another episode that really started strong but ended very flat.
Wait a minute. The Navy episode, is that the one where he goes in the sub?
Yep.
It's
my first day.
That's a good episode with Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I was one of the ones that gave it a silver, but yeah, it just sort of, it does fall apart at the end.
I wasn't there for that review, so I still disagree, even though I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I might have to disagree on that one. I have to watch it, but I might disagree with you. Yeah. When he goes nuclear. Nuclear.
Yeah, and Sparkle and all that.
And congratulations, you're now all World War I recreationists. Yay! Uh-oh.
And what else there was? Oh, and Beyond Blunderdome. It's got the same ranking as that, the Mel Gibson one.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, Hollywood playlist right there. All right, guys, so that does it for the HD era episode. Now, we're going to go all the way back to season 11 to do Kill the Alligator and Run. We'll be right back.
Oh, wow, I'm actually looking forward to this because I've heard it's awful and I remember it being okay.
And we are back, and we just watched season 11, episode 19, Kill the Alligator and Run. First released in April of 2000, directed by Jen Kamerman and written by everyone's favourite John Swartzwelder. In this episode, okay, a lot happens, but basically Homer is afraid of dying. He does a test that reveal death might be around the corner, so he develops insomnia, which the family help him treat by taking a relaxing vacation, which turns out to be in spring break! And he ends up partying his insomnia away, but he's a little sad when the party's over, and he tries to continue the party. They end up killing a gator and then being on the run from the law. What'd you think?
You said a lot happens in this, and that's the main thing I took away. It was like, pick a lane, Simpsons. I felt like there's like 3 or 4 episodes worth of like content in this one episode. Are you in prison? Are you on the run? Are you at spring break? Like, I was like, okay. I was like, so much is happening in 21 minutes. I feel like they just tried to shove too much into the episode. Like, an episode about Homer at spring break could be a whole episode. Instead, it was like a portion of this episode. Then there's a portion where they're in jail. They're on the run. So for me, I was just watching and I was like, oh, it felt manic, like really manic. Like I just wish it would have calmed down a little bit and try not to do so much in one episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Take a breath every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was just a big vehicle for a lot of gags, and a lot of gags that I quite liked, but just the overall episode as a package sort of felt me a little wanting.
Yeah, it's especially with the way it finishes, just kind of ends very abruptly, and considering how much has happened up to this point, it does. Yeah, it's a very sudden shock. That said, I had some fun. I got some good laughs out of this one.
Yeah. JTE, just starting out, for better or worse, what's just any moment from the story that stood out to you?
I mean, I did like when he got the spring break, and some of the jokes worked, some didn't. I like that she tied him to the bed, and he literally, like, jumped out, and he's like, spring break! And every time a car drove by, he was like, spring break, spring break. I like that stuff. Yeah. And, hey, we got a Kid Rock cameo with Josie. That brought me back to 2000-ish. So I enjoyed that. I think the best joke in the whole show was when the MTV host alarm goes off, indicating that she's 25, and then this younger, like 19-year-old hot girl comes in, is like, "Yay, I'm here, your replacement." I thought that was funny because that feels like what MTV used to be like get the youngest, hottest girls in there.
Totally.
Brush out the 25 is old is ridiculous.
So, like, this was a movie reference as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, Logan's Run.
Oh, really? I've never seen Logan's Run.
I haven't either. I just know the bit.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent bit as well. So, yeah, a good little movie parody and also a tie into, like you said, a real thing where MTV had just, keep trading out their hosts.
Yeah, one of their jokes I really liked was the lady that ran the diner and that cliche of, you know what? I like you. Like, she gave an example for everybody, and then they capped it off perfectly with the cop stealing the trailer. She's like, "You're stealing my trailer. You know what? I like you."
I like that.
Yeah, she's a very positive person, you know?
Yeah.
The only time that she objected to any of this was when Homer was about to hit her with a frying pan, which I wasn't a fan of that joke, but everything else that the waitress had was great.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, BT? What's a moment from the story that stood out to you, for better or worse?
I like Homer as the quizmaster. He's in that purple bathrobe. He's got a traffic cone on his head, just wandering around quizzing people. I got some laughs out of that. And then he's just in bed with Marge, just like, okay, there's a spider at the door, a snake on the phone, and a scorpion in the bathroom. Do you A? None of the below.
Yeah. Yeah, see, to me, that was like a classic John Swartzwelder-style joke. I mean, we'll never know who actually wrote it, but it's that sort of misdirect that he does, like when Homer's hitchhiking with the bed, like how in the next scene he's tied to the roof of a car. The people who picked him up didn't make the effort to untie him from the bed, just launched the whole thing on their roof.
I mean, he's a man by the side of the road tied to a bed. You don't trust that. You just take him where he needs to go.
I'm going to say the moment from the story that stood out to me was Diedrich Bader's character of the sheriff. I really enjoyed like how he was all, oh, boys will be boys, and the turn, you know, beer companies pay me to look the other way. Every other time of the year, I'm a real hard ass.
Yeah, that's the guy from he was on Drew Carey show. He was also in Office Space, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Put it on the Channel 7, the breast exam.
Yeah, I love him in Office Space. He's got like one of the funniest lines in that movie where he's like, "You want to come over?" He's like, "Nope, don't need you fucking up my life either." It's like, it's a great little line. I recognize his voice immediately. I was like, oh, I didn't remember his name actually, but he's one of those guys. Every time he pops up in a movie or a TV show, I'm like, this guy's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so plowing along with the questionnaire, play count. How many times before tonight have you seen this episode?
I probably saw it when it originally aired. I do remember some of it. A lot of it I did not remember, but as I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. I didn't remember like specific jokes, but I remember the storyline and certain things that happened. I think it's a pretty, forgettable episode overall, but at the same time, it has a couple jokes that land. Again, this goes back to when I watched the series, like, in its heyday, when it's in its prime. It feels like there's not a real point to it. It feels like it's just a roadmap to get you from gag to gag to gag. There's no real structure. I thought the episode was going to end like 3 different times because it felt like it just felt so disjointed. Like, this is usually where an episode would end, and then it would go on to a whole nother section. And I just thought it was kind of weird. Yeah,
it really bounced from story to story to story. It definitely could have been so many different episodes. Have you seen this much in your past, BT?
Oh, yeah, I've seen this maybe 5-6 times, I reckon. Possibly more.
Yeah, I think we've sort of hit on this concept on a previous episode where I think I've watched this a lot just in the context of a play all, because this is a pretty good disc on season 11. It's just, I found this episode actually a bit of an outlier for certainly the rest of the season. And yeah, so I think I've just watched it. I've hit play all. I'm probably doing something else, playing video games. So just sort of half watching it. So yeah, I think I've seen it at least 10 times.
Yeah, I think as Simpsons fans, we're spoiled because the seasons before this, every week was a hit. It was like hit episode, hit episode, hit episode. Season 10, 11 is the first time where you would get a couple hit episodes and one that just would kind of fall short or fail. And your level of standard by all the greatness before it is almost unfair. Because I agree with you, there are some good episodes in this season, but it's not like the previous seasons where it's just hit after hit after hit after hit. But how many shows could say they could do that?
No, that's right. And, they've gone from, some of the best television ever existing to pretty good television.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the wacky moments of this episode. What were some of the cartoony elements that stood out to you?
Cartoony. That's interesting. I always like the jokes that work for me are best with the dialogue. Like, I like where she's like, did you have to cuff the kids? And he's like, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of my favorite line deliveries. Trying to think of something that was really cartoony. I mean, the fact that he rode over to the alligator and they're like on the run. Oh, you know what? The train thing was stupid.
Yeah.
The train thing.
I know this is a cartoon, reality could be bet, but there's no way you survive that or get dragged along for like as long as they did. And he jumps out. That joke was okay, but Simpsons always, messes with, reality as far as like what can and can't happen. But
Yeah,
this just
definitely.
felt like it went a little bit over out of bounds for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's elements of the train bit that I really like, but as far as like the misdirect goes, like there is no chance there was a second train track. They did several shots where it didn't exist. And as funny as a misdirect is, yeah, they miss one train and get hit by another.
Yeah, I was okay with the train. That joke was okay to me, like them getting hit right afterwards. Like, I get that, but being dragged, and I mean, that car would have exploded. They should at least maybe got hit into the water or something.
Which, yeah, you're thinking, and then it's so funny that he goes, oh, the only thing we can do now is just try and get some rest.
Yep. And then I like that's the fade to the ad break. They come back, everyone's just napping.
Yeah.
like,
And, yeah, it's really good that they don't show Homer in that scene as well.
Just comes back and is like, oh, don't worry, I talked to the engineer. He said there's a procedure for this kind of thing, and just pries him off with a rod.
It's crazy. I think people forget how grounded I think the first like 2 seasons of Simpsons were.
Oh,
'Cause
definitely.
If you took this joke with the train and put it in like middle of season 2,
Aye.
it would not feel like it belonged at all.
That's right. Yeah, it's very much a teens era episode of The Simpsons. But aside from the cartoony elements, how about the heart, the groundingness of the episode? Did you guys feel heart?
No. Again, that's something about these episodes. This felt like it didn't have time. It never slowed down to build any kind of heartful moment. It was at such a breakneck speed to get from like one part of the story to the next and just get some gags out.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even know like where. I guess the alligator dying might have been like a sad moment, but even then it was such a joke. I don't think there's anything in this episode that was even trying to be heartfelt.
Yeah.
Maybe Homer's paranoia about death. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it's a vehicle for jokes, which is fine. It's just, yeah, you're not going to get anything emotional or any kind of reaction out of this other than some laughs.
No, and even Marge, you know, who is normally our source for heart and her caring for Homer, any time that she felt anything, it was undercut by jokes. And I do like how she sort of cared for him after he starts freaking out. And, you know, conversely, that she'd really gotten over him being the quiz master. Marge, is braised ribs, do you think that counts honey braised?
I don't know. I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, that question's pretty cut and dry. Ultimately, though, did it feel like an episode of The Simpsons? Was the integrity of the characters all right, do you reckon?
For me, when you say like the integrity of the Simpsons, Homer just feels like this is the transition where he's not quite the Homer I fell in love with in the original series. He feels more manic. Now, I know at the beginning of the episode he's manic because he's scared he's going to die.
Yeah.
But like the way his humor hit in this episode, it didn't feel like a character. It just felt like a vehicle for jokes.
Yeah.
And I think Homer in the past, he was dumb and funny and stupid, but he always had like a sweetness to him at times, or at least like innocence.
Definitely.
Whereas when I'm watching this one, it's just like he's just being stupid for being stupid's sake.
Yeah.
For the most part, I mean, like Marge doesn't really get much to do. Bart and Lisa don't really get much to do. This really is a Homer episode.
Sure.
And the whole thing where he's going crazy with like the baby and the like he's shirtless and stuff, and Mr. Burns, like in the past Homer would screw up something like that at work, but it was never felt that insane or ridiculous to me.
Yeah, because it's actually the writer John Swartzwelder has said when he's writing Homer, he just thinks of like a golden retriever, so that kind of loving but also stupid, well-intentioned thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, here he's just kind of it's a shade dumber.
Yeah, very all over the place, and his insanity was sort of just to be a vehicle for those jokes. And, you know, I sort of flip between liking and hating that why isn't my baby gaining any weight?
Because it's made of plastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you're saying about the rest of the characters as well is on point. You know, they're just sort of there to keep the Homer story going along, and I kind of think there's something charming about how quickly they adapted to the rural Florida lifestyle, though.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. Like, again, that could be a whole episode.
Yeah, definitely.
There's been episodes where they're on the run or they're somewhere they usually aren't. And the whole episode, in a way, the writers would satire, like, what that meant.
Yeah.
There could be a whole episode about them being, like, hillbillies or something. And it would be a whole episode. And they would use the whole episode as a vehicle to make fun of, like, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's like 3 minutes, just rounding off a couple jokes, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Now we're prisoners.
Yeah. And I honestly would have liked to see that episode. I really wanted to see more of the waitress lady who's just positive on everything.
Bart whittling at an 8th grade level.
Yeah. It's too tired for bickering. Mm-hmm. And so did this sort of ring true about Florida? Have you been down there or?
Yeah, I went to college in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went to Winter Park, Orlando area. Yeah, spring break is crazy down there. I didn't spend a lot of time near the ocean or the swamps,
Yep.
I lived like in Orlando, so it was a lot of city, a lot of amusement parks.
Oh, yeah.
And there were alligators and swamps here and there. I did see some of those. But yeah, overall, it captured the spring break. It captured the MTV version of spring break pretty well.
Yeah, I thought the whole spring break element was... I think it was a good way for Homer to relax, but also, as Americans, you would have been aware that it was currently spring break, right?
I guess in Springfield, it maybe not be as big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because in Springfield, spring break is all over in Florida, which is America's Wang.
Yeah.
They wouldn't kept up with that.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. You guys have got America's Wang, and then we've got the state of Tasmania, which is a little island off the southeast of Australia, which, yeah, a euphemism for a vagina is a map of Tasmania in Australia.
Nice.
So, yeah, every country's got their genital geography joke. So, yes or no, JTE, would you watch this one again?
I wouldn't seek it out. If it was on like cable and I was flipping through channels and there's a joke I kind of like from it coming up, I'd probably stick around for a certain joke, but I don't see myself revisiting this like I would the great episodes that I usually do.
Absolutely. BT?
Yeah, check this one out again, especially if it's on. I don't think I'll track it down, but even though it's just a vehicle for jokes, I do quite like a lot of jokes in it, so... Yeah, it might just be the sound bites that would really be great. I think every time I hear a song I like, I get Homer's voice in my head going, "Woo, I like music." Just little soundbite clips like that, what this episode is made up of, but I'd still check it out.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm not seeking it out, but if it was on, I think this is actually a perfect phone scrolling episode. Is just, you tune out for the bits you don't like and tune back in. Because, it's one where I find myself loving and hating it every 2 minutes. It's quite bizarre.
Yeah, there's so many jokes that I think the hit to miss ratio is more in favor of the misses, but it's close.
Yeah.
Like there are some hits, there are some good hits in here, but I think overall it misses a little bit more than it hits.
Definitely. So, JT, what would you like to change about this episode?
Like I said earlier, pick a lane, man. This thing was switching lanes every few minutes. Like I said, half this episode could have been a spring break, a full episode of them on the run, them in jail. Like, there's so many things they could have done. Just Homer dealing with, like, the fact that he might die could be a whole episode. Like, there's that whole episode with the Johnny Cash where he has the illusions of the dog. He's trying to find who his soulmate is. Like, that's a great episode. And it takes that one thing that he's dealing with and puts a whole episode to it. It has heart and it has, like, relevation. And it's hilarious. So I think you could have just done an episode about him dealing that he's going to die one day. Instead, it's solved the second he gets a spring break. And it's not even the theme of the episode, really.
No, because... it's sort of one of the problems that I have with the internal logic is that Homer's meant to have a relaxing weekend, but it turns out partying hardy is exactly what he needed. So I think there's just a sort of a weird jump with the logic. How about you, BT? What would you like to change about this episode?
I think if you wanted to, because I appreciate it is just a vehicle for jokes, and I kind of like episodes that are okay with that. They know what they are and they do that. I think what's maybe lacking here is a bit of guilt from Homer because he gets everybody arrested. You kind of expect a moment where he's like, I put my kids in prison over, just goofing off and trying to go to spring break. So I guess that's lacking. But the reason that's lacking is so we can have the joke where he's like, Your Honor, I'd like to represent myself. Drunken hicks of the jury. Yeah. And then you get the smash cut to them being in prison. Yeah, you've sacrificed a bit of heart for a joke. And I get that. And I understand that's why it's doing it. But yeah, a little bit of that maybe. A little bit of Homer realizing what he's done and... Maybe then he can't sleep again. I don't know. You'd have to change a lot because there's just not a lot of time as it's currently structured. Yeah,
I think for me, I really want to change the last part of the episode. I wish they didn't get arrested. I wish it was sort of more they led the police on a chase and then they discovered the crocodile because, one of the other logical problems with this episode is that the gator gets hit in the swamp and then reappears in the mansion.
Yeah, and no one checked if it was dead the entire time.
Yeah. And you would have thought if Captain Jack, he's this big hero of the area, they would have had like a full-on funeral for him, maybe with an open casket to, this gator designed their flag after all. So, because I didn't really like much of the prison material. There's a couple of good jokes where they're at the mansion and Homer's getting whipped and he gets whipped into being a very competent jazz pianist.
It's what's lacking from most music schools, man. It's the whiplash, quite literally, method of schooling.
I did like the joke where he's like, it's a Cool Hand Luke moment. He's like, I don't want you listening. You hear that? He's like, no,
Oh,
you just don't learn, do you? It's like no matter what he says, he's screwed.
Yep. So guest stars of the episode, like we said before, Kid Rock and Joe C. This was one of Joe C's last ever things he did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he passed away about 6 months after this episode was released. So were you much of a Kid Rock fan? Are you much of a Kid Rock fan now?
When that first album came out, yeah, man, I was ball with the ball all day. Like, I'd be in my car like, the ball, the bang. I mean, I like that first album a lot. I don't know if his albums quite were ever that good again. Then he went country. But back when this song came out and that record came out, I was blasting it obnoxiously in my car back in the day.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, 14 at the time, and I got my mum to go into our record store and buy it for me because it was R18. And
Ooh, scandalous.
she's like, do I actually want you listening to this music? But, I mean, I remember loving that album back in the day, that and Cowboy. The Sheriff's Right, Fist of Rage is a bit of a pumping song. But yeah, over time, Kid Rock has really soured on me, and I sort of see his music more as appropriation rather than appreciation, and that speaks to both all of his hip-hop, metal, and country. Anyway, that's my musician rant. But I thought his and Joe C's performance in this episode was good.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, they did exactly what they did. I mean, I'm sure Kid Rock was in that situation plenty of times in his life, being at a beach, spring break, just rocking out. I did like that they were going to like take him out, and then the sheriff came in and was talking down to him like kids, like, Kid Rock, Joe C, you're better than this.
Would your mama want you stretching out that sweatshirt?
Yeah.
Don't tell mama. Yeah, I thought that was good, and, it shows they've got a bit of sense of humor about themselves. It's good. Yeah, that was it for guest stars. Oh, I almost forgot. Robert Evans and Charlie Rose. What'd you think of this bit, JTE?
Yeah, I like Robert Evans. He had a great documentary called The Kid Stays in the Picture. If you guys never seen that, highly recommend. It was cool to hear him talk about Chinatown, Love Story, The Godfathers. And I was like, that's definitely Robert Evans. It was interesting. I think the joke went on a little too long. Like, they each said it twice. Like, we're going to kill you, Homer. Like, once probably would have been fine for me. But it kept going. But it was a cool little nod to Robert Evans and the legend that he was as a film producer.
Yeah, absolutely. He's, doing my notes for the episode. He's someone I actually wasn't aware of. And then, just seeing his filmography of stuff he's made, it's impressive.
Have you seen that documentary, The Kid Stays in the Picture?
No. I'll take a note
I've heard of it, but
check it out. It's really good. The title of the movie is The Kid Stays in the Picture. And who he's referring to is Jack Nicholson. And and if you watch the documentary, you'll know why.
Oh, a little bit of a teaser. I like that. And I thought they did a decent job, but it did go on a bit too long for me.
It was one of the few points of the episode that actually stopped for a minute. It is an interesting place to stop. I liked it. You don't know where it's going. He's just watching TV. It all sounds like Hollywood gibberish, and it says, I'm going to kill you, Homer.
Yeah.
You are so dead.
Yeah, they did that well, and you can tell it's Homer's insanity, but I don't think I needed after the family come down the stairs and he's still just blabbing on, like. So, musical moments from the episode. So, Homer sings We Built This City a lot.
Yeah, I like that when he got on stage and he just tried changing the song. We built this city. I was like, oh, I like that song. And then you got Kid Rock, Ball with the Ball. That's the only music cues I really could think of. Oh, they played, was it Louie Louie? Which is a throwback to what he played in the college episode where he joined the Nerds. And that's just a classic Animal House song.
Yeah, absolutely. Must be a classic spring break song as well. I think it was weird how they did the smash cut with Louie Louie and then he sings We Built This City. I really wish it was just the smash cut straight to him singing We Built This City. Again, for an episode where you're all over the place, it's weird that they took up a bit of time with this one static shot. Yeah, JTE, do you have any other notes about this episode before we rank it?
Not really. This is, like I said, there's hit and misses in this season. This is a miss for overall for me. But like I said, it was close. There are some jokes in there I do like. But it does feel like not the Simpsons I loved and grew up with a lot of ways. This was when the signs were starting to show that, holy crap. Like, as a kid, when I heard there's a new writer on a show, it didn't really mean anything to me. It wasn't until Simpsons, when the new writers took over, I go, oh, the writers are a big deal. This feels different. And I think this is a great example of the changeover that happened right around the time where it's still good but not great, and it's heading towards bad.
Yeah, definitely. You see the signs, and especially the frantic nature of the story. I think, as well, they might not have been copying Family Guy directly. I think just comedy shows around the time just were a bit more like Family Guy, that story was being sacrificed for gag vehicles. How about you, BT? Any other notes?
These are all just lines I like. So I like when he's in the therapist's office, like, you hate your father, don't you? Yeah, but the guy I really hate is your father.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I brought that up. I was just venting.
Yeah, that was fun little bit of banter between them.
I think it's a good little Schwartzweldian misdirect as well.
Yeah.
Just a simple line, my pockets hurt. They're being pursued. It's like, pull over. There's no good places.
Yeah.
One day I really want to crack that out and get arrested for it.
Yeah, it'd be worth it.
Yeah. When Lisa's like, Dad, you can't drive. He has your license. Well, I'll try anyway. It's a miracle. I got a good chuckle out of that.
Just plugs the keys in and, yeah, who needed a license anyway?
Yep. Now, it ain't Buckingham Palace. No.
Yeah.
And my final one is going to be something I never noticed before. It's like they're on the run for Gatorside and defrauding an Amtrak snack bar. When Homer comes back from the snack bar on the train, he's obviously scammed them somehow.
Yeah.
Or just stolen this food.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
That's my rapid-fire joke notes.
All right, cool. Time for my final notes. I do think about Homer saying, giving Bart the money, and 3 makes 3. I like that line. It's followed up by the weird thing that his money's actually for the Montana militia or something.
Yeah, which is a little bit more ominous these days, but...
Very ominous. And yeah, I like Homer when he gets the quiz book and he's just answering the questions on the cover. Are you a good driver? Yes. Are you a good lover?
Yeah. We're going to find out what makes me tick. I think it's hunger and rage. Yeah, but in what ratio?
Yeah. I thought it was really sad, though, how he came over to Flanders' house. Like, this is, like, in the same season that Maud died, and yeah, I think it was too raw, and it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
I got to laugh at it.
When he's singing Jimmy Crack Corn, I do like how he brings it in to We Built This City again. Actually, you were just saying, the singer of that song actually wrote the majority.
writer. Yeah, it was a writer for Jefferson Airplane and Jefferson Starship and wrote all their good songs.
Yeah, Want Somebody to Love and Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now and all those classic
And
hits.
White Rabbit. Never forget White Rabbit.
Oh, throw the radio in when Rabbit peaks. I'd really hated Homer making the joke about Lisa and Bart getting married. I think they were playing with the sort of the charming hillbilly thing. I think leaning into the incest was just the obvious joke there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was took a little too long and was a little too gross.
But yeah, conversely, I did like how, your suit certainly brings out the red in your neck.
Well, you should wait till summertime when the horseflies got at it.
And my final note is that the episode ends on such a fizzer of a joke where the family goes, okay, we're still welcome in North Dakota, and Bart goes, yay, I want to see Mount Rushmore.
That's South Dakota.
And that's the final joke of the episode? What a... not a good closer.
No.
All right, guys, it is time to rank this thing. BT, why don't you take the lead on this one?
Well, I appreciate this one has some faults in the sense of story and really not having any kind of heart to it. I still have a lot of fun with it, get some laughs, so I'm probably going to go with silver on this one. Yeah, it's a fun ride. It's not a meaningful ride, but it's fun.
Wow. How about you, JTE?
I'm going to go bronze, and it's a low bronze. Like,
Yeah.
I gave bronze, I believe, to the Seth Rogen episode, and that was a high bronze. That was like borderline silver. But this is like just barely made it to bronze. Like I said, I think at the end of the episode, more jokes missed than landed for me. And the franticness of it, and just the fact they couldn't just pick a storyline, it feels like a mess. But at the end of the day, I did laugh a few times, so I have to give it a low bronze.
Fair enough. I am surprised. I was really wrestling with my decision, but you guys have helped solidify it. I'm giving it a participant.
Really?
Wow.
Which is weird because I'm normally the nice judge out of all of us, and I forgive a lot of this stuff. But no, for me, it's just too frantic, and the cringe moments really do bring it down for me. And if I'm being honest, it's an episode that I do not really want to watch again. And, much like you were saying, JT, this is skirting the border for me. This is a high participant for me, but...
You know what? You talked me into it. Mark me down for participant. I'm out of the bronze. Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't watch this again.
That's a good point. Because, we say if you're going to give it a medal ranking, you at least want to watch it again. Are you happy with your silver?
I don't make mistakes.
Well, this is interesting. This is the second time that we've had an episode rank silver participant. Previously, that happened with season 27's Friend with Benefit, which, Phil liked, but we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will average out into being a dull bronze, which sounds so right. This will be joining other episodes like season 1's Homer's Odyssey, which is fine, but it's just the show's still finding its feet. Large Marge, when she gets breast implants, it's the same ranking as that.
How is that even a participant?
What else? Jazzy and the Pussycats, when Bart becomes a jazz drummer.
Groovy.
And Dark Knight Court, which, JTE, if you're going to watch a HD era episode for fun, Dark Knight Court is...
Such a 50-50 split. Like, the A story's boring as hell, but the B story's really good.
So Mr. Burns is inspired by Batman and Bruce Wayne because, you know, he is also a rich guy that could be a superhero. So he decides to become Fruit Batman.
Okay.
And Smith just runs into places and pays criminals to just give up when Mr. Burns shows up.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
All right, cool. So that does it for the teens era. Now, finally, JTE, we can treat you to one of the classic episodes. We are going to go to Season 7's Team Homer, a.k.a. the Pin Pals. We'll be back. And we are back, and we just watched our classic and final episode for the evening, which was Season 7, Episode 12, Team Homer. This was first released in January of 1996, directed by Mark Kirtland, written by Mike Scully. In this episode, you guys at home, you know it, it's the Pin Pals episode, and also it's Bart and Lisa. They have to wear school uniforms, and oh god, what'd you think?
I mean, this is a great episode. It's funny, like, I love all the episodes in this run, but this isn't like quite tier 1, like the Scorpio episode, or for me, like the one where they go and join the Boy Scouts. So, like, those are some of my favorites. But this is just super solid.
Yeah.
There's barely a joke in here that doesn't work for me. And there's a couple jokes where I was like, oh, the great thing is going back and watching these episodes. There's so many great jokes that I remember, but I don't always remember what episode they're in. And every time one of those great jokes come up, I'm like, oh, it's this episode. Great. And then, as soon as the joke starts, I already know exactly what it is, and I love it anyway.
Yeah, we come across it. We end up doing the pre-noting where we're already laughing at the joke, we're already noting it down. How about you, BT? What'd you think?
Oh, man, such a cold classic. I actually forgotten what the B story was when they're going through Bart with a mad iron-on transfer. I'm like, oh, yeah, what is this? And they're like, uniforms, awesome.
Yeah, see, this was a funny thing for us, actually, because the vast majority of schools in Australia have mandatory uniforms.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you as well grew up in schools without uniforms?
Yeah, this is America. Not too many schools make you do that, unless you're in like a private school or something. Yeah, I never had to wear a uniform, thank God.
Yeah, mine weren't quite that drab. I had like white and green and then white and blue at my high school. You, Beach?
Yeah, same kind of deal. Like,
you had ties at your high school.
yeah, you didn't.
No.
Son of a bitch.
But yeah, so it was a funny story for us to see play out. And, you know, we get a little bit of how American culture works.
I love when the reaction of the faces of the kids when Martin comes out wearing and Lisa comes out wearing, like the look on the kids' faces, what mine would be like if I was in school and they're like, you have to wear uniforms, here they are. I would have been like, when they did a close-up of Millhouse and he's just like, in horror. I was laughing so hard because I was like, that is exactly how I would be. That's how kids I went to school would be if we had to wear uniforms that looked anything like that.
Yeah. It was also a cool character moment with both Martin and Lisa, how Martin, like, he is so oblivious. He thinks this is awesome, whereas Lisa's, like, a lot more coy, and she's like, oh, shit, this isn't good.
Yeah, the B story in this has some of the best jokes, man. One of my favorite jokes, and I didn't realize it was in the episode, is when the principal is, you know, Skinner is showing him around, and he's like, all right, well, this was a perfect trip. I'm going to give you a 10. Start with a 0 first, and now a vertical line to indicate the 1. Like, who does that? And it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And just the way that a shirt like that can make all the kids in the school, like, rebel. Like,
instantly.
And then maybe one of my favorite scenes this episode, Skinner having that Vietnam flashback. He's like, Mad Magazine, we meet again. And he just starts going, and it goes all the way to like this stew that he made while he was a prisoner. I mean, I love getting that really dark backstory from Mr. Skinner. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a really, as we noticed as it went on, Skinner's become less of this diverse character who's, you know, the authority figure who gets undermined by his servitude to Chalmers and his mother, and it just becomes he's just a punching bag for his mother. But this is the early days where he was this complex character, and I really like how it slowly zooms on him. The lighting change just be the slits of the Venetian blind, and he gets this echo to his voice I never noticed before. That's like really just gives the moment so much power. And then he goes from talking about being in the prison camp to just talking about not being able to find the stew when he got back to the States. So they just can't get the spices right.
It's so good. And I like that it played with Skinner's character as well, that he was like, the shirt said up with miniskirts. We all had a laugh, but I didn't quite understand it. It's just such good Skinner in this episode. Yeah, what's another moment from the story that stood out to you, for better or worse? I'm guessing better.
There's so many. I think when Mr. Burns thinks that Homer is the doughboy, the Pillsbury doughboy, it's so good. And he's so out of it, and he's like poking him in the eye and everything. And the way that joke later, they deliver on it again, where they're like, there's only 2 people in our database that can come close to a match. And when Homer's body aligns with the Pillsbury Doughboy, and it says like 1,044,000,000 chance of error, like just something like that is a great callback to that joke, and it's hilarious to me. So like, I love that. And then it ends with the mole man with the drill. He thinks he's like the leprechaun. It's like, he's so out of it on whatever that stuff he was taking. That's another one of those jokes that I remember. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's this episode.
Yeah, and it probably, because, we didn't have Pillsbury Doughboy, we didn't have Lucky Charms in Australia, so I think, these jokes probably played just like 1% more for you guys, but
we still got it.
Yeah, it still got it, and every chubby kid, myself included, would be called Poppin' Fresh, and it doesn't help that I'm very ticklish and that, people poke my belly, I do go, hee. How about you, BT? What's a moment from this episode that stood out to you?
I really like when the two stories briefly intersect, where the kids are like, these uniforms suck. And I was like, where do you get the such language? Just cuts to home. It's like, oh boy, that team sure did suck last night. Yeah, I've seen some teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
Homer.
Sorry, my wiener kids are listening.
Yeah, that was so good. When he's like, I gotta go, my wiener kids here. He's like, we're not wiener kids. He's like, then why are you dressed like that?
They made us. Oh, they made us. It's that great moment
Simpsons.
of he's on such a high from their winning streak, and the kids are on such a low from the uniforms. It's a great little part to have them cross over.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say the moment of the story that stood out to me was the Mad Magazine involvement. Just what a great way to roll into the episode, and just all the little comments on it. Oh, they're making fun of that Spiro Agnew guy. He must work there.
Yeah, or the bit was like, it's the super special. They only make 17 of these a year.
Yeah. And it reminded me, I used to make my own Mad Magazine fold-ins when I was younger. Yeah, just really brought me back.
Nice.
Yeah. It's really easy. You just start by folding, draw the picture, and then
figure out how to make it. All right.
Yeah, it's a fun little art exercise. All right, so play count. JTE, how many times before tonight have you seen this episode?
A bunch. Here's the thing, obviously you had the original run, and then, there were a lot of channels out here will do a lot of repeats. If I came across anything from this time period, I would stop and watch it. But there was a time when DVDs were really hitting, and I remember I used to have the first 7 or 8 seasons of The Simpsons on DVD for quite a while. And then after I moved, so a lot of them got damaged, and for a long time, they're not easy to find. Like, you can't buy the Blu-rays. I think season 20 is when they started releasing them in Blu-ray, but they haven't gone and done a back catalog for a lot of these.
No, they've only gone as far back as season 15. It's really annoying.
It's so annoying.
That is dumb.
The good thing is, because of this show, I found out the FX app works on my Xbox One, so I now have access to all the episodes on my TV, which I plan on watching a bunch more. I mean, for some of those moments that are in the show, I'm going to refer to them a lot because I joke around about Simpsons all the time. And if I'm ever hanging out with my friends, I'm going to mention some of the jokes in this episode because they're so good. So I will watch this again.
Absolutely.
Who knows when, but it'll definitely happen.
Yeah, look, I don't know if I can put a number on it. How about I still remember the little VHS tape that I made with this. A lot of season 7 really rings true for me. I think this is absolutely the show at its peak.
Yep.
I will say, even though I've seen it a bunch, I probably haven't seen it for maybe 10 years. So a lot of this stuff came as a surprise to me. Like the scene where Homer's asking Marge to pay him $500 for sex. That either was censored or flew over my head completely. I just died laughing at that.
I do remember it. Like, I think in Australia they censored where she goes, and I don't have $500 for sex.
Yeah.
There's a great moment earlier, too, where Marge is Homer wants the attention, and she just keeps going, "Oh, that's so great that Otto did that." Like she's like, and she's messing with him because she knows him so well. And it does happen more in the series besides this one time where Marge just knows what he's looking for, and she's not going to give in to him because she knows it'll drive him crazy.
I think that's the bit where he's retelling the story of how Otto got the split, but he's making it all about him. Sorry, got the spare.
Because, objectively, picking up a 7-10 split is way more impressive. But actually, something that I noticed with that in this rewatch is that they do keep returning to Homer and Marge in bed and him looking to Marge for comfort or advice or any of this stuff. And it really leads to some lovely moments between them, I think.
Yeah, it's, again, this episode does have some heart to it. I know you're going to ask me that later, but it's about teamwork. What do you sacrifice for your friends? And these are a bunch of guys that wanted to play some bowling, and they're all outcasts, and they had to form a team together. Which leads me to another one of my favorite jokes is when they go to the bowling alley because Homer's like, I guess I'll go back see my kids. He's like, please, Mo, where else can we go? And he's like, and the kid working behind the bowling alley is like, I couldn't give my own mother an alley. And she just comes by, she's like, I have no son. Like, that's just a great joke on top of a joke.
Which is now some good Simpsons continuity that we didn't know, is that the squeaky voiced teen is the son of Lunch Lady Doris. It's building more connections in the world. But I mean, we're talking about the heart already. May as well knock off that question. Yeah, is a heart moment that stood out to you, Beach?
There's a bit where they're trying to boot Mr. Burns off the team and they're just kicking Homer under the table. And he does that whole, here comes the friendship, which you get a joke from him being just trying to be cute. And then there's lost a nail. Well, that's leprosy for you.
Yeah.
But I like that, obviously Homer just doesn't have the heart, but it cuts to Apu and Mo, who are also like, have that expression of, well, I guess we can't kick him off just now. They're also struggling with that idea. Obviously, and then later on when he gives them the pin pal jackets and they're all like, you can stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Homer doesn't read the situation and is like, you're off the team.
Yeah.
He's just ripping you, Monty.
Yeah. But I think it's nice to go from, obviously, Homer is conflicted because it's his boss, to the whole team's conflicted because he's, an old man who's actually enjoying himself for a change.
Yeah. And I got, watching this episode, and I knew this was going to be an episode, one of the jokes me and my friends would always talk about or refer to, and it's by far, to me, one of the better jokes of the whole season, is Mr. Burns literally, like, can't walk. And he's like, you're going to have to tell the team I'm not going to be able to play today. And Mo comes in and pulls, like, a Tanya Harding and just happens to knock it back in place. Like, that is Simpsons at its best.
Yeah, what a great misdirect, and a reference that is now once again relevant. And weren't you just saying that your girlfriend April's going off to see that tonight?
Yeah, she's going to see Hi Tanya, and as I was watching an episode, I was like, oh my God, here's a Hi Tanya joke.
Man, all the amazing coincidences. I will say, the other heart moment that stood out to me was the final Marge consoling Homer, and he's built the little trophy case, which looks a lot like the spice rack from season 2, I think. And he goes, oh, so you mean we're definitely going to win? She's like, well, and he goes, I won't need this anymore. And there's this amazing bit where you don't see him flushing the Oscar down the toilet.
Yeah.
And they sell the joke even with a practically static animation shot. I think, it's brilliant.
The line, someone broke the toilet. Yeah. Like, no, you broke it.
Yeah. So how about some of the wacky moments? What are some of the cartoony elements that stood out to you?
Some of the cartoon elements, one that I guess I could say didn't really work for me was, it's followed by a joke that did work. When the pin's wobbling and it's not going down, and Ned just looks up and is like, it's me, Ned. And then it falls over. I was like, that's great. That's perfect. That's Ned all the way. But then it's followed up with the Homer getting electrocuted by the ball returner.
Yeah.
And I thought that second part didn't really land so much for me. I thought you could have just ended with that pin falling down. It would have been perfect. Yeah, I mean, the Mole Man drill, that's pretty damn cartoony, but I love how they did it off screen. And you just hear him say, my brains. That worked. I'm trying to think. I love when the suits just start becoming all colored and they're like bring back to life.
Oh, isn't that great? I'm freaking out.
Yeah, I'm freaking
out. And Martin's running around in what was clearly uniform underwear.
Yeah. I noticed that, yeah. And I like even Chalmers, he was like, oh, Skinner, you've messed up again. Why aren't these uniforms color fast? And this, I don't understand. Same place my mother gets her dresses. She's in the park. And then Chalmers just quickly is like, I want to. Yeah, this I gotta see.
He's like, I'm not missing this.
And it's great because it's sort of like cartoon wackiness that they don't show you. You sort of leave it up to your imagination.
Mm.
Yeah, no, that's true. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's what they don't show you.
Exactly. Do you have some cartoony elements?
Oh boy, do I ever. When the school descends into anarchy with Bart's shirt and they tip over Krabappel's desk, it just catches fire.
Oh, yes, that was great.
Mr. Burns has a line about, "Oh, Pop and Fresh, I owe my robust physique to your tubes of triple bleached goo." Just not even sure what he's going on, but Burnsyisms are always fun.
Because, yeah, Pop and Fresh is like, it's dough that you can like make into croissants and pastries and things like that, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
All the children blinking in unison.
I love that sound. I wonder if they got the entire writing staff to just blink or something and see if they could get that.
Yeah, and it's not really wacky, but I think we in Australia can relate to this for when uniforms came out, where it's like, you can select your sizes from extra small or extra large. Oh, I've just been told we're out of extra large.
Yeah.
Yep, that sounds familiar.
But ultimately, though, guys, did it feel like an episode of The Simpsons? How's the integrity of the show and the characters?
I mean, yeah, this is it's in the middle of its stride right here, in my opinion. Almost no jokes missed. I think Homer is the Homer that I love, where he's stupid and he just can't read situations, which I think he's never over the top and just being used for a joke for no reason. I think it all has to do with what he's trying to achieve, being part of the Pen Pals, not wanting to go home. He's a selfish person in a lot of ways, too. And for me, that it just works perfectly. And then the way with the kids is just such a Simpsons episode. And again, it was refreshing to watch it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were fine with the integrity?
Absolutely, everyone's on point. This is a very iconic episode. This is The Simpsons.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say about the character integrity as well is that I really enjoyed all the four people groupings that the show made for various bowling teams. Like, yeah, they made so much sense, like the Holy Rollers and the Homewreckers, and I even love the cops, like, because, yeah, you only know the three of them, so of course they got in a ringer for Snake.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Bye.
You knew that was going to happen. Like, I think the first time I watched this episode, you're like, you know exactly where that's going to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought the Homewreckers, that's a deep cut, because some of those characters are like season 1, season 2. I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah,
and then,
Lane, Mindy, and...
At first they show the three girls, and then at the very end they show the French guy the guy that Marge almost has an affair with, like early in like season 2.
Jacques. Yeah, which is an awesome throwback as well, because he was a professional bowler.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. Like deep cuts, it really makes it so satisfying for fans. And I love the knowing joke of the other team, the stereotypes.
Oh,
like it's,
yeah. And Apu is like, they begged me to join.
Yeah. Yes or no? Would you guys watch this one again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not even a question. Some great jokes. Some of the jokes, like I told you, that are ones that I refer to just out of the blue. Like, I will always refer to that Tanya Harding joke. Like, me and my friends will talk and just bring it up all the time. The vertical line to make a 10, that's another classic for me. Yeah, I'd absolutely watch this again.
Yeah, you too, Beach?
Oh, yeah, it's total comfort food. This is, you want to curl up with a warm mug or something and just watch The Simpsons.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm going to watch it again. You guys are going to watch it again. What playlist do we put this in? What other Simpsons episodes remind you of this one?
Oh, that's a good question.
Sports.
Yeah, sports.
Yeah, the one where Homer joins the baseball team. That's a classic.
Yep.
With the
Homer
nuclear
such a good
plant
episode.
has their own team.
Yeah, we constantly reference that as like one of the absolute top tier episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, that is an amazing episode. They always handle baseball and sports overall really well. Another quote, it's not from this episode, is, "Here come the pretzels."
Yeah.
That is like one of the most ridiculous jokes. And then like the way they cut to him pleading for help and cut to him unconscious, being just get him. He was like, "This is a sad day for baseball."
Sad day for baseball.
I had that event pretty much happen at my high school one day where, some company like delivered like these little snack cakes, but they were awful. And then, of course, by recess, the whole school just descended into a food fight. It was just these little chocolate snack cakes everywhere. And like they were doing it for market research. We were meant to fill out a form. No one filled out the form, but yeah, everything got covered in chocolate. Anyway, so yeah, other episode playlists. I guess you could do like good Mr. Burns stories.
Yeah, Burns and Homer.
Yeah, definitely.
The one where Homer takes over for Mr. Smithers is a great one also.
Homer the Smithers, yeah.
Yeah, another one that we consider top tier. I'd say, yeah, you can also make a good playlist of Otto episodes.
Yeah, and some Chalmers episodes.
Oh, definitely. Oh, Superintendent Chalmers. Why are there children trampling my head? It's so good. JTE, is there anything you'd like to change about this episode?
No, not really. Now, like I said, the electricity, we got electrocuted after he made that comment. I guess you could cut that. But outside of that, there's almost nothing else. I would maybe update the best supporting actor. It was Don Amici.
Oh, who's that? Sorry.
On the Oscar that's crossed off with his name, Homer Simpson. It's Don Amici. I'm not sure what he won the Oscar for. It was best supporting.
Okay.
And I'll look it up, but I don't know that. I'm not that familiar with that actor or what he won for. So maybe update that Oscar with like another supporting actor who probably didn't deserve it.
How about you, BT? What would you like to change?
I don't think there's anything to change. I think when I think of maybe classic Simpsons, some of them are a little tighter packed. A lot of them have that 1-2 joke that we're not quite getting here. So there's when you're laughing at one part, there's another backup joke that hits you even harder.
Sure.
But no, this is a great episode.
Yeah, I'd say, look, I don't actually want to change it, but I did think in this rewatch, I would be curious to see if it was Homer that was kicked out of the team instead. But also, I think that would ruin the whole Otto being, the thing that helps them win the game in the end.
With the skill tester and trying to win the harmonica and the Harvard diploma? Yeah.
Which is just beautiful because, it's calling back to jokes that were great in their own right, and then it made it the thing that helps them win the game. So, even though Otto's out of the team, he still wins the game, and he does it by playing the skill tester, the reason they plucked him out of and got him on the team in the first place. And also, Otto gets what he wants. He got his lobster harmonica. Yep. That was such a satisfying moment.
I thought he was going for the Harvard diploma, and then he went back to the lobster harmonica. I was like, okay.
Priorities, man.
Yeah. Were there any musical moments that stood out to you guys?
You can do it, Otto. You can do it, Otto. Help each other out. That'll be our motto.
Yeah.
That was great.
All those, basically.
And the little reference to Styx there, Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, all the chants were pretty good. Rhyming Homer with Homer? Oh, mwah. So, JTE, do you have any other notes before we rank this thing? Don
Amici won Best Supporting Actor for Cocoon.
Oh.
The old Ron Howard movie with Steve Guttenberg.
Interesting.
I looked that up while we were talking. Not much, man, except for, this is, again, I think it's a great episode. I think it has some deep cuts with some of the characters. I think you got some classic Skinner moments in here. Anytime he's with Chalmers and anytime he has a flashback to his past, I just love it. Yeah. I just love the show that will go that dark for a moment. Great. Homer and Moe, I think, has some great moments in this. I think the knee thing is one of my favorite Moe moments ever. Mr. Smithers and Mr. Burns, everyone's bringing their A game. And the B story is just as good as the A story, if not in some ways maybe better. So, there's not much to complain about. It's a great episode.
Excellent. BT, any other notes?
Yeah, there's a whole rant of Moe's where he's like, I hate being treated like dirt. I'm better than dirt. Well, not that fancy store-bought dirt. That's full of nutrients, and I can't compete with that. Yeah, it's a whole. I kind of want to look at the script of that because that's a really good rant.
Well, I was trying to take down notes, and I'm like, oh, slow down, Moe. This is all gold. This is all pure gold.
But no, that's my final. I'm out of stuff.
All right, I just need a couple of seconds to consolidate my notes.
Nice. And while he's doing that, we do have a question we like to ask guests. If you could have a sandwich named after you, what would be on that sandwich? Or if that seems a little too hard to figure out, just the simple question, best sandwich?
Sandwich. Like any kind of sandwich?
Yeah.
It would,
however you like.
It would be a long French bread roll. And it would be like a sub, but with hamburgers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
they used to do this back in the day. Some places would actually do this. They would cut 2 patties in half and put it as like your sandwich. And then all that would be on there is cheese, a little bit of mayo, and that's it.
Keep it simple. No, I like it. Now that you mention that, I'm thinking about get the long roll, but get multiple mini patties, and then each one is a little different as you go down. It's a one long slider.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not bad. It's kind of like a bunch of sliders just connected.
Just all together, though. But I like the simplicity of it. Sometimes people overthink these things, and it's...
I'm a simple guy. I like my shit plain.
Excellent.
That's good.
All right, cool. It's time for my speedy final note time. I like how Marge is concerned with the Mad magazine. Oh, those magazines make a dangerous amount of laughter.
Yeah, that was a great line.
And yeah, when Homer's in bed with her asking for the $500, and she goes, "Why don't you ask Mr. Burns?" I asked him for $1,500 last week. He said no.
Why did you need that?
I'm going to get the third degree from you too. It's like another one of these things where they leave it up to your imagination.
Yeah.
The uniforms were by a company called Mr. Boy and Mr. Boy for Girls.
Yeah, I saw that. That was weird.
Great visual joke, I thought.
Yeah. And just reinforcing how it's just not going to work.
Yeah. And I can't believe we didn't mention Stub Everything. I don't remember writing a check for bowling.
That says bowling, sir.
Oh, that's very important.
Yes, remember the month you forgot it? No, that's unpleasant for everybody. And then she repeats it all with, wait a second, I don't remember writing a check for bowling.
It's an excellent misdirect, and tied into when, because you think Mr. Burns going to come down on them, and he's like, I want to join your team. You're going to join his what? You're going to what his team?
Yeah. And then his like, I haven't felt this good since my last bowling.
Yeah. This episode has just got such good memory, right? Yeah, and in the scene where Bart sees Krabappel's butt, he's got the slingshot. I'm like, there's something I do here.
Yeah, and the Nelson follow-up.
Yeah. And my final note, and it's just a little bit of a, how did this work out? The Holy Rollers can clearly clear a strike every time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still wondering how they were in the position where obviously Mr. Burns can only get 1 or 2 pins at a time.
Yeah, that's
how
a
did
good
the
point.
scores work out?
That also leads to one of my favorite visuals of the ball slowly going down and the whole team going one after another, strike, pins down, strike, pins down. That gave me a good laugh. That was just a great visual gag.
But I chalk that one up to you're having too much fun at the time to really care about the logic about that.
You're invested at this point, so yeah.
And it has the other good misdirect where you think Burns got a strike, but he steps aside and it's Homer's. Good one. All right, guys. It is time to rank this thing. BT, why don't you kick it off this time?
I kicked it off last time. I'm split on this one. I'm either on a low cubic or a high gold, and I'm just not sure where I'm sitting. Because while it is incredibly, I feel like there's a bit of a nostalgia thing here where I'm remembering it more fondly than maybe I should.
Yep.
Because it is very much, it's such an iconic episode. But I think of some of the other things we've given Cubic to, and they've been, such densely packed, will give you jokes forever. You'll come back to it after years and still find something new about it. Where are my guts on this one? Whew. I'm gonna say gold. I'm gonna sit with that for a little bit and see where I think it might. God damn it! No, Cubic.
give me the rankings again.
All right, so failure participant, and then bronze, silver, gold, and then cubic zirconia are at the very top. What do you reckon, JTE? Where are you going?
I'm gonna go gold. Yeah, it's one below the best. I mean, I'm gonna leave that top one for the rare air. This one is really good. But like you said, there's other ones for me the Scorpio episode just hit so much and so quickly and so nonstop. That to me is a top one. This is a solid gold episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And we sort of say on the show that there's actually not too much difference between a gold and a cubic.
Yeah.
By our definition, gold is excellent, but cubic is essential.
Yeah.
So in that frame, you'd say it wouldn't be an essential episode for Experience The Simpsons.
It's hard to say
tough.
no to that. But at the same time, there's so many good episodes that I'll put it in gold, but knowing that that's only because there's so many good ones.
Hey, it's a fair rank. It's not controversial. Beach, sticking with gold?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the gold. I want to put it higher. That's the thing. I was watching through it critically, and while I had this big grin on my face, I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking about the other ones we give in the cubic. Homer at Bat is still one of the best episodes ever. And it's just so quick and so dense, and you've always got that 1-2 punch of jokes. And while there's some great jokes in this one, it's just not that kind of absolute perfection, I suppose. So it's very, very good. It's 99%. It's just not 100%.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am going to be the one giving it cubic zirconia myself.
We needed one person to it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, just for me, I do think this is just one of the timeless episodes, and there's so much to take from it. There's a part of me critically that thinks, the kid's story and Homer's story don't have a lot to do with each other, but they do intersect at one point, and it's not at all a downfall of the episode. There's just so much fun to be had. And again, because you've got a great solid kid story, great solid Homer story, you've got something for the whole family. So yeah, cubic zirconia for me. So all right, and so everyone's cool with their ranks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, and I might change my mind tomorrow, but for now, I think that's where I'm going to have to leave it.
All right, well, this will equal a shiny gold all around, and this will be joining other such episodes as Homer and Apu when Apu comes to live with the Simpsons, the Homer They Fall, the boxing episode.
Oh, so good.
With Kid Gorgeous. Wait, no, it's Kid Presentable. No, wait, Kid Gruesome.
Actually, it's Kidmo.
Yeah. And also The Secret War of Lisa Simpson, where she and Bart go off to join military school.
I would really put this on par with Homer and Apu. I think this is really in the same kind of vein as that.
Yeah. No, totally. All right, guys. Yeah, that about does it for the Simpsons Index for this week. JTE, seriously, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you guys. I love The Simpsons, and I've been one of those people who just haven't revisited anything past season 12. So for me, this was a cool little experiment to actually force myself to watch some of the newer Simpsons, because I just was like, I was so against it. And, we watched an episode by Seth Rogen, which I liked for the most part. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
In fact, it was better than this season 12 episode. And if you asked me before this, would any episode be better than anything before season 13, I would have said no. So at least it changed my mind a little bit. So that was nice.
Well, no, I was glad to get you on, and it was good to have a actual spokesperson of California to be able to comment on all that stuff. So, yeah, really good. Thank you for doing the show, and we hope we can get you on again maybe in the future, because there is a Pin Pal sequel that is very much not a good episode.
Oh, no.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Hence my reaction.
Oh, it's so bad. But we'd love to have you back on the show if you.
When you're on the air this long, you have to start digging into your past glories, just to scrap together an episode. Probably.
You know what?
That's tough. I didn't know that either, so that's depressing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, at least they have never done a Hank Scorpio sequel, because I think that'd be terrible.
Yeah, we kind of got it with the movie.
Don't give them ideas.
Because Albert Brooks was the voice of the government agent. At least we got. Albert Brooks is great also. Anytime he's in episodes, pretty fantastic.
Fucking legend. Yeah, and he was Jock as well. Yeah, such a good actor. All right, cool. Well, yeah, that about does it for us. Thank you, JTE, again, and thank you, BT, as always.
Yeah, whatever.
And that's been JTE.
Thanks for watching, guys, and listening.
And that's been BT Calloway.
Also, thank you.
And I've been your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill. That's all the mustard in the house! Thank you for listening to the Simpsons Index podcast, which is also an online spreadsheet available at thesimpsonsindex.com. You can chat to us online at facebook.com/thesimpsonsindex or at simpsonsindex on Twitter. Now, there's no deleted scenes today, folks, but there are a few things I just want to mention. I want to take another moment to thank JTE for appearing on the show. You can find him on his YouTube channel, JTE Movie Thinks. You can also see him on Screen Junkies, Collider, and The Schmodown, all available on YouTube. And he is also frequently on his partner's YouTube channel, April 13 Dawn, and they also have a Patreon together. So go kick him a couple of bucks at patreon.com/JTE April Dawn. And also just a reminder that we have a web series. It's called Dave Plus One, and it's a really funny romantic comedy. It's available on YouTube or at daveplusone.com. We had an absolute blast making it. BT Calloway and Phil Calloway wrote the thing, and I produced it. And if you like us, you like our sense of humor, you'll have a lot of fun with Dave Plus One. It's a really great show, and I'm super proud of it. All right, guys, that's it for us this week. Join us next week when me and Jordan and BT return to the wasteland. Oh, yes, that's right. It's going to be our all terrible episode special, HD Wasteland.